Welcome to How to Become a Production SQL Database Administrator. My name is Raphael. In the previous video, we looked at what are SQL roles, and specifically we looked at fixed database roles, and then I gave you a demonstration of how to create a user-defined database role. In this video, I'm going to take it one more step, and now I'm going to show you what are fixed server roles, and I'm also going to demonstrate to you how to create a user-defined server role. So let's continue. Very much like the previous video, it's going to be the same kind of a context, so it's not going to be very long video here. So now we come up to SQL server roles. As with previous, they were database level. This is at the server level. So the server role pages list all the possible roles that can be assigned to the new login, and here are the server side roles. Bulk admin, which can basically run the bulk insert statement. The DB creator, and this can create, alter, drop, and restore any databases. So now obviously one of the things I want to point out immediately is while we've been talking about database roles and their complexities and the importance of making the right decision about placing the logging in the appropriate fixed database role, when it comes to server roles, even greater attention needs to be paid. Pay very close to attention in understanding what the server roles functions are before you assign any logins to it. As these are server-wide roles, they can cause a tremendous amount of harm if you place a inexperienced login into one of these roles. So again, I want to stress that this is an important decision to make, so take this very seriously. Here, database creator, so obviously you can create, alter, and even drop databases, so this is important, so make sure you're aware of that. The disk admin, primarily its function is that he can manage disks files and other things. The processor admin can terminate processes running in the instance of the database engine. The public is all server users, group, and roles belong to the public fixed rule by default, and you can't delete the public fixed server role. Now we're getting into a little more serious and a little more comprehensive roles. The security admin. So this is why I've illustrated this in red also. Members of the security admin fixed server role manage logins and their properties. They can grant, deny, revoke server level permissions. They can also grant, deny, revoke database level permissions. So now it's becoming a very influential group here. So be careful who you assign into this group again. Server admin. So obviously this is the members of the server admin fixed role can change server-wide configurations and even shut down the server. So again, very few people should be into these latter ones. Setup administration can revoke and add and remove linked servers. Again, so pay attention to these. And then the last one, obviously, is the system admin. And I've deliberately put godlike powers because they can do anything. This is the essay that I've been working with and demonstrating to you. And even though I'm using it for demonstration purposes in a production environment, I don't even use it. I rarely use the essay account, so be careful with that. Members of the sysadmin fixed role can do any activity whatsoever. And so you certainly should not be assigning this to even a junior DBAs. So one of the reasons you assign this obviously is if there's no other way of utilizing other roles. But this is a very important role, so keep this with the best practice, and that is to disable it. So make sure you understand this part. So again, I encourage you to read further into what server roles are. There's a lot of articles that are going deeply into these server roles, and I recommend and advocate you do that all the time. But this will give you an illustration of the primary roles it does. So now that we've exposed to the roles of the server roles, now I'm going to give you a demonstration, like last time, of how to create a server role. So let's continue. So back to our example. And here we go. So now you'll notice here I'm in the using my essay account, and in order to create a server role, now you go to your security, go to server roles, and you'll see that I don't have a user-defined server role. So to create it using a GUI, right-click server role, and obviously select new server role. Now this is a newer feature with 2012 and onwards. I don't believe it's with 2008. So click on new server role, and this window pops up. I'm going to call it Junior DBA role. So now obviously these are the securables that you can assign, the endpoints, the logins, and you can select them. Servers. The one I'm obviously going to select for demonstration is I'm going to go to servers. And as soon as you click on this, obviously you get the permissions that are associated with the server itself. So now you can scroll down here and go through them. Obviously, I'm not going to give any alter statements here because I don't feel the juniors need to do that. Basically, I'm just going to be, in this demonstration, I'm going to let him create any database because he may be assisting a developer, so he should be able to create any database. That's fine. And then let's see what else I can do. He can view any database, and that's fine. So I can grant him that. And that's it. So now that I've given them those permissions, I'm going to add the logins. So you click on members, click on add, go to browse, and then select the appropriate login that you want to be placed into this server role. Again, for our purposes, I'm going to choose Peter and Robert. So they've been promoted. So okay. Okay, and now as soon as I go OK, you'll see that under the server role, the Junior DBA role has been created. And if I double click that again, you can quickly look at all its properties that we've done here. And you can see the granted is selected for create and view. So now that being granted and 2 logins have been added, let's see if Peter and Rob can view any database and create database since I gave him that permission under server role. So this is Robert, if he's going to go under databases. Now obviously he can view any databases, and obviously if I go to production here, and you can see I have 2 databases. One is AdventureWorks. If I click on that, I see the expanded list. If I go on prod, I see the expanded list. So now Robert goes to his computer, and since he's being given permission and he's a user for AdventureWorks, he can view it. Look at the tables. If I refresh, even though I gave him permission in the role to view the databases, which he can, because you can see prod here, he cannot view the tables because tables are even granular and you have to give him permissions to that. And I have not given him permissions, even though he belongs into a server role. So take a note of that. But if he clicks on prod, you'll see that he gets denied because I have not given him permission to access that thing. He does not have a user account either. But I did give Robert and Peter the ability to create databases. So let's see if he can. So this is Robert. Right click, new database, and let's just call it test and go OK. And there he is. So he can create that database and view everything within that database. What about Peter? Can he create a database since he's part of the server role? And obviously this is propagated, as you can see, because it's going everywhere on the server. So let's see if he can create a database. New database. We'll call this test2. And he can create a database also. And obviously we can view the databases of each other's because we've got that permission. But again, keep note that anytime you create a database, you have accessibility to it, but you don't have accessibility to other people's databases, as in this case right here. So he can view them, but he can't access them. So take a note of that also. So this is an important concept to understand. So he can view that, but he can't access that until he's got permission. So that's how you create a server role. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Let me get out of it. I'm going to create row. I'm going to take the junior course. I'm going to delete it, and they'll be out. And let me actually delete the databases here. Since I'm the admin, I can even delete obviously their databases. So let's delete them. And there you see the power of SA. I can do anything. So now that I've created a server login, I'm going to do exactly the same thing using T-SQL. So I've got my T-SQL script here. Let's bring it up. As I mentioned earlier, always kind of write down the steps that you want to do. So in these steps, I'm going to first create a server role, or create one, or name it. I'm going to create any database permission to the server role, and I'm also view any database permission to the server role, and then I'm going to add logins. So the SQL script, which will be provided for you, is as follows. Always use master, go master. And in order for you to create a role, you say create server role, role name, and then highlight and execute. Back to master. Now that I've created a role, and we can certainly see that here, if we want to go securities, server roles, refresh, you'll see that I've created it. Now I'm going to create any database permission to that role. So I'm going to highlight this and execute. And remember the command, create any database to the role that I just created. And then I'm going to do exactly the same. This time I'm going to allow this group to view any database. So I'm going to highlight that and execute. And then finally, I'm going to add the two logins, Peter and Robert, to the newly formed group. And that's alter server role, role name, add member, and then specific member. So if I highlight those and execute, and they've added. So if I go here and double click, you'll see it's added. So now let's just verify that they can create a database, and then we're good to go. So right click, this is Robert creating one, test, and he can, and there we go. So this video illustrates now very fundamentally the same as we did previously, and that is creating a user-defined either a database role or a server role. And this should be more than sufficient for you to understand this concept. So I'm going to leave it here and then continue with the next one. The next video I'm going to be talking about is specific permissions. We're going to be talking about the grant permission, the revoke, and the deny permissions to various objects. So we'll see you in the next video. This is Raphael, and this is how to become a production SQL database administrator.